in this episode, I'm gonna finally get to do the project which I was planning and waiting for to do very long time. I saw other YouTubers doing this sewing project, and I wanted to hop on the same train because it's beautiful, it's very exciting, and the only problem which I had, I couldn't find items which actually gonna meet my design in my head, and I finally did, and it arrived 2 days ago. So I am happy to announce that we gonna do this in this episode. So let me spill the beans and tell you everything. So what is that we are making? What is that I wanted to make so badly? A lot of YouTubers, they make, and actually that's a season for it, amazing coats out of the 100% wool vintage blankets. Yes. So the biggest challenge was to find a vintage blanket, which I actually like, first of all, and which gonna be best fit for my closet. That was challenge number one. I am very picky about this. I didn't want any vintage blanket. I had something designed in my head and I wanted specific color, specific vintage blanket. And the challenge number two was obviously budget, because vintage blankets are very, very expensive. So after going through gazillion websites, after bidding on multiple blankets on eBay, I finally found the one which I want and in the budget I set in my head. And yes, they are also less expensive blankets, but I wanted the one which is 100% wool, which is gonna be nice and warm, color which I want, and also the size, because obviously the bigger the size, the more expensive the blankets are. And I found perfect blanket, perfect for my design. It took me probably a month of waiting just to find the one which I want, and I scored a huge wool beautiful blanket for $42 plus shipping cost. So I was planning and bidding and looking for this blanket since the end of July. And today it's October, mid-October actually. And blanket arrived 2 days ago. And it's beautiful. I love it. It's huge. So I have opportunity or option either to make my coat longer, which is gonna be below my knee, or do the coat shorter. And that's what I actually was looking for, to have options. And color is amazing. I know, yada, 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 all this backstory. And I'm gonna show you finally my blanket. And as you guys know, I am gardener and I love flowers. So I really, really wanted something in with a flower pattern, first of all. And second of all, I wanted something in kind of like a nice turquoise or blue color, because that reminds me sky and like a beautiful summer days when all flowers are blooming. So I wanted flower and blue, huge blanket, and also 100% wool, which is gonna be under $50. So that's a lot of what I wanted, and I was waiting a long time and I got it. So this is my blanket, and I have to step like really, really far. It's huge. What do you guys think? Also, what's supposed to be amazing about this project, which I'm gonna show you a few of those which other YouTubers did. This blanket and this project, this coat, sewing machine shouldn't be involved in it. It should be only hand stitching. But I think I'm gonna do very invisible stitches. And I still gonna do hand stitching as a details. I don't think I'm gonna go totally 100% with what everyone was doing and they just skipped sewing machine. I will still stitch it with a sewing machine, and I think then I will do the hand stitching. I will see how it's gonna look after I cut it, but that's the plan. It's a wool blanket, and I also gonna do some yarn details on it. I will explain a little bit later, a little bit further down the project. And I decided to go for this color with this beautiful kind of contrasting yarn, because I wanted wool, because the blanket is wool. And I started to look for the buttons, because buttons has to be also super special. So that's going to be my color combination for this kind of turquoisey light blue. I wanted to have neon, something more like a modern and contemporary color. So that's what's the last step. Now we're gonna trace the pattern. So finding the blanket was the hardest part, and it's finally here. I am happy to have it here. And before the blanket arrived, I was so excited that when I was waiting for it, and I knew the design, I knew the color, I knew that I have what I wanted, I started to look for the pattern which gonna be perfect for this specific blanket and color and pattern. Because believe me or not, if I would get different blanket, probably I would use different pattern. That's how crazy I am. And I found the perfect pattern. I want to make this coat with this hood which is attached starting from here. So let's get to the part which is very annoying, tracing the pattern to the paper in the size I want. Okay, the annoying part, which I dislike the most about sewing, is tracing and cutting out the pattern. So we have that out of our way, and now I'm gonna lay the blanket on the floor because it's huge, and I'm gonna start to do the fun part, planning, because it's very important to me how I want to lay design for the front, for the back, for the hood. Every detail matters, and this is vintage blanket, which there is no room for mistake over here. So I have to plan it very carefully. I have to think twice or even 3 times before I'm gonna make any cut, because again, I was waiting for this blanket such a long time, and I wanted, like everyone else, beautiful vintage 100% wool blanket. So in this project, no. Okay, so let's go to the part I was waiting for since August. Let's finally get to the fun part. We have design cut out. Let's go lay the blanket on the floor, and let's start designing. And as I said, I love flowers, so I'm planning originally, that's what I planned. I'm not sure if that's gonna work out. I want to have like rose patterns over here, and the middle of the blanket I want to use for the back, and I want to do reversible hood because the blanket is double-sided with lighter side, with roses on the hood, but in different color. Let's see if that's gonna work based on the fact that I have only one blanket, and I will let you know. I see you in a few minutes. Okay, I finally made my decision about placement, and I am not going to try cut it when blanket is folded. So I'm gonna cut every piece individually instead of cutting on fold. And once I'm gonna get those pieces done, I will unfold the blanket and cut them again. So fingers crossed, guys. I think that's how I want it. That's how I'm planning to do it. And I'm gonna have hood left, which is 3-piece actually, and pockets left. And it seems like I'm gonna have quite a bit of blanket left. And I also chose this pattern. Gives you 2 options, short coat or long coat. So I am also doing a long version. I figured out that since it's a winter coat, maybe it's better to have version which is longer. It's gonna keep me nice and warm and toasty. So that's the general plan for now, and I'm about to make a first cut on this beautiful vintage blanket. Okay, so I cut out basically everything at this point except of pockets. And the reason why I didn't cut the pockets is because the front of my coat have these beautiful roses. If I will cut out the pockets, I'm gonna have to cover this beautiful design, which I don't want to, unless I'm gonna use exactly same rose from the leftover packet and try to match exactly design so it's gonna fit in a place where the roses are on my fronts. The reason why I don't want to do that is because I have fairly big amount of blankets still left, which I might use for, I think I'm gonna be able to make even like one short coat out of this one or beautiful vest. So I don't want to use it and cut the rose right in the middle of this gorgeous leftover blanket just to have a pockets here. So I think generally my plan is skip the pockets for now, and I might not do the pockets at all in this coat. I had some nice stripped leftover which I can use for the belt, which I might do the belt as an accent if instead of doing pockets. But for now, I think I'm gonna leave it as is, because if I'm still gonna crave pockets, I can cut them in last minute. I really don't want to waste the leftover blanket until I'm gonna cut out one more design which I have in my head, and then maybe, just maybe, I'm gonna do the pockets if I have anything left over. I was very intentional about cutting every single piece. So I told you I'm gonna do neon stitching, but also the bottom of my blanket I left with original stitching because I want to keep as much as possible of this original design and this beautiful vintage blanket, and to keep original pieces. So I think the bottom of my coat, at least the fronts, I might keep original stitching, and I might keep original stitching on the sleeves, and the rest of it I might go with neon thread. I do not know yet. I haven't made my decision about that. For now, I just cut it the way that I have them as an option. But if I decide not to do that, I will just cut them off. So let me start to put pieces together. I am really happy how efficient I was and how much blanket I still have left, and potentially I can have another beautiful design. And then I really wanted the pockets because I think the pockets bring additional cute detail. But let me put the whole coat together, and since everything is hand stitching, I can always put the pockets last minute and use some leftover scraps. So I will think about it. I'm gonna start putting coat together for now. Also, another thing, the blanket is very thick, so 2 pieces together, they're gonna be very thick. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm gonna probably use quilting walking foot and very thick needle, because I do not think that regular sewing foot will actually be able to handle the thickness. So I'm gonna do that. And yeah, I am very happy and super excited. I finished stitching the hood, and I told you guys that I am kind of on the fence if I want to do and use the sewing machine and stitching, or I just want to go and do the hand stitching like other YouTubers. I made a decision to do sewing stitching, and using walking foot, it's a game changer. So I just stitched the hood. That's the back of the hood, and that's the sides of the hood. And what I actually like about doing stitching on the sewing machine, these lines over here gonna be perfect guideline for me for the hand stitching, so everything gonna look perfectly even. Because what I would hate the most, probably going halfway and one hand stitch would go a little bit farther than the other, and it's not gonna look even. So I really love stitching like this. Also, next step in the project, regardless if you would do the hand stitching or machine stitching, it would be to attach shoulders, back shoulders with the front shoulders, and we're gonna leave everything else open. We will be attaching only the shoulders part. And remember that we're doing kind of like a reverse situation, so we actually stitching inside out, kind of. That's how it's supposed to look. So I'm gonna stitch that, and then we're gonna attach the sleeve. And I told you that I decided to do the long coat with a belt, and I will actually skip the pockets because they're gonna ruin my design. But I am kind of getting on the fence if I really want to have something that long. On the other hand, it's winter, so I want to be warm, right? Okay, shoulders are attached, and that's only shoulders attached. So it's gonna look totally like this. And now we actually will attach our sleeves. And so we're gonna fold the sleeves half, and we will start from the middle and attach them to the outer corners, sides. And once the sleeves are attached, we're gonna stitch the whole side all together with one long stitch. Attach the sleeves to the shoulders, and now as you see, I'm gonna stitch in one long stitch all the way down. I am also using one of my balls to create this curve over here, and I was very specific how I want to do it because the rows over here, I didn't want to cut out the leaf, I didn't want to cut out the rows. Here we go, my dog is coming to make sure it's right. So now I'm gonna do exactly on the other side. I'm gonna place the ball the way that the leaf is staying over here. And yeah, and basically after I stitch all this, I'm gonna attach the hood, and that would be it with my machine stitching. And I'm gonna start doing hand stitching. So that's how it looks, guys. That's the last machine stitch on both sides. Actually, I'm sorry, and then I'm gonna attach the hood, and I'm sorry, and that's how I planned this to look. That's how I planned design. Everything is very symmetrical and even, including sleeves. And as I mentioned before, I wanted really badly to keep original stitching somewhere on the jacket. So I decided to crop my jacket because it was way too long. I'm only 5'3", and I feel like it was way too big for what I would normally wear. So I decided to keep original stitching on my sleeves. All right, so I put all pieces together, and now it's gonna be using yarn time. That's going to be very long, and I think the longest part actually of the whole project. So the coat without the finish yet looks like this. Okay, and it has this fun hoodie, and I think I didn't do it yet, but my plan is to also have the belt. I don't know what size and width of the belt I will be doing yet. My buttons are coming. They're gonna be here by the end of October, so I'm not sure if, but generally that's how it's going to look without the belt. So I think I will adjust. The belt is not cut yet, so I think I will definitely make this belt a little bit thinner. I love everything about it. The only thing which I am reaching to is obviously pockets. So, as I told you guys before, I really don't want to ruin this beautiful design and cut out the pockets. I have to think about it. I'm not gonna do the stitching on the sides yet. I start from the top, so I have time to think about the pockets and potentially maybe just taking it in a little bit because it's kind of like big, but it also should be a coat. And obviously, as you guys know me, I'm kind of in between doing this yarn or off-white yarn. So I don't know, I might do the sample because the coat came out amazing, beyond my expectations. Love, 10 out of 10. I had a bunch of blanket left, and I decided to gift the person which is my biggest fan, and I make something special from this vintage blanket for this winter. So I'm making a vest for my husband. So that would be his vest, and I had enough fabric blanket to make this simple gorgeous vest, and I ordered like a gorgeous wood buttons for it to make it more manly. And for him, I'm making white or off-white stitches. So this is not my vest, so I better not get used to it because it's too big on me. Okay, but that was his vest. Now let's talk about my coat. So that's my coat. I think my choices of colors, I think I'm gonna eliminate white for sure. This is for my coat. If we're gonna go from neon, one of the blues, but the both blues are different, or we also going to go with neutrals. And my button's gonna be vintage, gorgeous buttons. So that's my coat. And that's the options for my coat. So that's another decision we have to make. And oh boy, I love them all so much. I wish I would do like each sleeve different color, but that's not the case. So help me decide for my husband vest and for my coat. And I can be more adventurous. He likes more set. So the coat is finally ready. And I have to say that stitching the coat, cutting the pieces together, took me about 5 hours. Putting the stitching around the coat everywhere, it took me all weekend, like literally 10 to 5 Saturday and Sunday, with some minor adjustments on Monday. So the stitching took more time than cutting out the pieces and sewing the pieces together, but it's totally worth it. Details look amazing, and it's wool, and it's warm, and it's stylish, and we managed to recycle. So I decided not to do pockets at all and keep my roses and the design. And in the next clip you're gonna see how the coat looks on me, but all the details, hood, everything, I am just so stoked. Because it's vintage blanket, I told you in the previous clips that I want to keep as many original elements as possible, and one of them is to keep original stitching, which I managed to do it on the sleeves. I wasn't able to do it on the bottom of the coat as I originally was planning, because the coat was too long for my height, and I am only 5'3", so when it's something is super long, it makes me look super short, so I have to cut the coat a little bit shorter. But I kept original stitching on the sleeves and original stitching on one side of the belt. And buttons are coming in first week of November, so by the time when I'm gonna post this video, they're not gonna be here yet, but I will show you which buttons I order and what was my train of thoughts choosing. My vintage rose buttons gonna be in like kind of turquoise green color, gorgeous roses with some gold in it, and I think they're gonna look great on this coat. We will see when they're gonna arrive how they really gonna look against the coat, but I love the fact that again we recycle something vintage, and I'm using vintage buttons on the vintage coat and embracing this vintage idea, keeping as much original design and craftsmanship up as it's possible. And the other thing, I love that they rose because you know I love flowers, right? I am gardening big time, so I love flowers, and roses are not necessarily my favorite flowers. Dahlias are, but I love roses as well. There was no vintage blanket with dahlias on it, so roses will do. I am not done yet, because I was very respectful to this gorgeous vintage blanket, and I was trying to save it as much as possible, but also get the design I wanted to have. I managed to make something super special for my husband, and I managed actually to use leftover blanket and make this special vest for him. So this mannequin is a female size too, which is probably about my size, so the vest doesn't look great on this mannequin, but trust me, at the last clip we will both model these beautiful pieces of wardrobe for you. So I managed to make him this gorgeous vest, and I ordered this fun closures to make it more manly, not too feminine. I also kept original stitching on the bottom of the vest. So my final sewing thoughts before we're gonna end the video. I was working on the budget. I wanted something under $50, because vintage blankets of this size, they go for $100 and more. So I was very lucky to win that bid and win the blanket. I was very specific about the design and color I wanted. I wanted 100% wool with the flowers on it, so I can embrace the other passion of mine. And I was able to buy this amazing blanket under $50, and in the budget I was planning to. Number one. Number two, for $50 I kind of have 3, potentially 4 amazing pieces of wardrobe. I also recycled and helped the planet, and we created something beautiful and updated from the gorgeous vintage piece of, not a clothing, blanket. I do know I said that before, but probably by far it's my most favorite project, just because all these points which I just explained. And potentially not only I have reversible coat, which means I have 2 coats, he has a reversible vest. I potentially might be able to make another verse for myself. So I am very happy how efficient I was. I stayed under the budget. I recycled gorgeous piece of blanket and create something amazing. And this is unique. I created unique piece of wardrobes. They're not repeatable, and I love unique piece of clothing and look different. But it was also very easy, very pleasant, and super fun project to do. And I am actually gonna run now and see if I can make my own vest. On top of all this great stuff, which I already told you, there is another plus. The coat could be reversible, and this is another side. It could be not blue sky on and white flowers. It could be blue flowers on white background, and the stitching is reversible, which actually works perfectly with the whole idea. So basically, for the price of one blanket, I made two coats because I can wear it on whichever side I decide to wear it, and obviously my belt will go with either way, right? So if we're gonna really think about it, it's not only you recycled, but you have two coats in the price of one. I also would like to thank you because during the making this project, I reached 600 subscribers, which is another milestone. So thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really enjoy making this video. I really enjoy sharing my ideas and showing you what you can potentially make on really low budget, that you don't need to have designer clothes to look special and unique. And this video was super special just because all these points, and on top of that, during recording that video, I reached another milestone of 600 subscribers. So I am really grateful for you guys. So keep watching. I have more and more fun ideas to come. So stay tuned, and I will see you next week. And hey, if you have expensive taste like me and you want to keep your bank account happy as well, this is the right place for you. Thank you for watching. I will see you next